Welcome to Community Newspapers program, Facebook program, Excellence in Education. This is Marta Perez, and our mission is to expose and inspire excellence in education. Also, please follow us on Facebook and send us questions via our chat room. Now, please allow me to introduce one of the most knowledgeable, talented, and versatile public servants in the United States. We are so privileged to have this super duper hero in our community. She is the inimitable, Honorable Enid Weisman, Mayor of the City of Aventura. By way before of this impressive title, Mayor Weisman was a powerhouse in education. She was teacher, principal, administrator, and negotiator extraordinaire of extreme experience and effectiveness, and particularly of excellence. That is the focus of this program, excellence in education. Well, Mayor Enid Weisman personifies excellence. She has been honored by 6 different municipalities and has received numerous awards in education, including that of State Master Teacher, Outstanding Social Studies Teacher in the state of Florida, Administrator of the Year twice, and Principal of the Year. It is most appropriate for us to just find out how this brilliant person has helped Miami-Dade County Public Schools become the premier urban school district in the United States. Mayor Weisman is dedicated, insightful, creative, and highly effective. I believe her keen understanding of human beings and her kindness help her to pull rabbits out of hats, fly faster than a speeding bullet. She is more powerful than a locomotive and is able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Mayor Enid Weisman personifies excellence of the highest order. We are so fortunate to have her not only in our community, but on this program today. So please welcome the legendary Mayor Enid Weisman.
Dr. Perez, I am humbled. I have tears. I really have tears in my eyes, and I'm seldom at a loss for words. That is the most magnificent introduction one human being is given to another. And of course, we have been dear friends.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
Kindred spirits.
Yes.
For many, many years.
Yes.
And there's something very special when you sync with someone. And I don't know even that you'll remember this. But I was, and I'm using the word deliberately, I was just a principal. And I don't mean to minimize it, but you were a board member. And I didn't know you. And like I said, I doubt you'll remember. It was our first real meeting. Of course, I'd seen you at school board meetings and I knew who you were, but we never really had a conversation. And it was at a Teacher of the Year dinner. And I walked over to your table. Because after watching board meeting after board meeting after board meeting, year in and year out, it became very apparent to me that the board member with the heart and the courage to go to battle upstream, okay, to fight the fights that are worth fighting, but that nobody wants to tackle was you. And my schools were not in your district, okay? They were not in your district, but they had needs. They had needs. And I talked to you about a particular school that was a performing arts middle school program, but it was in horrible shape. You were all the way down south. You drove all the way up north to meet me, to look at the school. In a school board of 9, we all know it takes 5 votes. So just having your school board member on board was never enough. And you became a passionate advocate for school, not just that school, but for many schools and for children, not just in your area, but for children throughout all of Dade County. And it's something we need more of.
Thank you.
Total inclusiveness.
So you, Madam Mayor, are so inspirational And a lot of people don't know your background. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you grew up to be this powerhouse.
I did it the old-fashioned way. Okay, I worked for it. Early on, when I was little, I think my father always said to me, "If you find something you love and you do it, it never feels like work." And back then, there were.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Coral Gables.
Okay.
I graduated Gables High. I'm a Dade County Public School product. I feel like I've been there my whole life. And Miami has always been my home.
Did you want to be a teacher growing up?
I really don't think I did.
No?
No, I don't think I did. But back then, there weren't that many choices open to women.
Mm-hmm.
So, my mother had always said, you can be a nurse, you can be a teacher, you can be a secretary.
Uh-huh.
All right. Well, I don't like blood and needles,
Uh-huh.
and I wasn't very good at typing. So kind of, you just sort of fell into it. I fell into teaching.
And what did you teach?
I taught government, I taught civics, I taught history.
High school teacher.
I started out in what we had then were junior highs. Okay, I started out teaching 9th grade. I moved into the high school.
What school?
Miami Jackson Senior High, but I started at Allapattah Junior High at the time, not Allapattah Middle. I was at Jackson for a long time. At Jackson, I became a guidance counselor, a guidance chair, and I became an assistant principal.
And how did you enjoy those jobs, the guidance?
I loved every job I ever had. I had to be dragged out of the classroom. The region director came to my classroom at Allapattah and said, "You're not going to be here after the end of this year. You're moving over to Miami Jackson. We have a new principal there. We need you there." And when you work for the superintendent, you work at the wishes and the pleasure of your boss. And I said, "Great, I'm looking for a new challenge."
So how have schools changed since then? Since when you started out, your first classroom experience, how do you think schools have changed, and how have students changed?
I think it's much more challenging today. I think it's more challenging for kids. I think it's much more challenging for teachers.
And I'm not talking about testing.
I'm not talking about the pandemic. This pandemic is just let's hope a once in a 100-year lifetime experience. But over the past 30 years, education has changed dramatically. I think of the first Carnegie reports and the dreadful shape nationally that education was in and how it was failing miserably, serving the underserved. Always education. When kids come in knowing how to read and they come from families that can afford them everything they need to access education, it works fine. When kids don't have that, it's an uphill battle. It's one worth fighting. And it's one worth holding every kid's hand and taking them on that battle. And I would say that there were a set of rules. It really didn't matter if you went to school in Miami, New York, California, Boston. There was a set of curriculum novels that you would have read, I would have read. It was sort of much more structured. Behavior was more structured. Being bad in class was passing a note. Right. Yes. It was talking or chewing bubble gum.
Yes.
All right. Yes. That was kind of being bad. And of course, it was very embarrassing for your mother to get a call from a teacher.
Exactly.
And over 30 years, society changed and we changed, and we've expected more and more and more from our schools.
Absolutely.
And on the same time, we haven't taken anything away from them. Yes. We really and truly have just added. And society, as obviously, as we left the industrial part of society and we've moved into the digital and social media and electronic age, it gets even more difficult and more complex. I can remember the time when we didn't allow a child to have a phone in school.
I know.
Okay.
And that made it so much easier for teachers, as they say. We have to allow phones because unfortunately, look what happened at Columbine changed everything. However, you have no idea how many teachers tell me how distracting phones are for high school students particularly. And we have we just must. How about teacher quality, Enid? How do you see it? Because
I'm
that
concerned.
is every day we pack more stuff onto them.
Okay, as you know, I was in charge of human capital,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
teacher quality was part of my job. For any profession to remain at the forefront and be an honored profession, the members of the profession have to be respected. And that is probably the one word I would use to say what has impacted education. When I grew up, when you grew up, teachers were revered. Now, they never made any money, but they were still honored for the knowledge that they knew, primarily female, because that's what happened unless you were going to a parochial school.
Right. Yes.
Okay. But primarily female, but very smart females who knew what they were doing and were respected. This is the age of everybody has their rights. And if there's one thing that I really think, and I think of myself being in a classroom, and I think of 30 children having a cell phone, and you're on camera all the time. It's not one layer of stress. It's multiple layers of stress, because it's not just you. It's every other child in the room that's on the camera all the time. So a kid just could be doing something inappropriately. Maybe they're blowing their nose, which would be perfectly fine, but getting it on a camera at a wrong angle could be embarrassing for a child.
And also for a teacher. Technology does bring a lot of more stress. It relieves some things, but it creates more stress.
And the challenge is learning how we deal with it. Okay, it's not going away. All right, it's not. So, we kind of have to learn how to deal with it. And the best teachers find very novel ways of working around it, whether saying, put it away for the first 45 minutes.
But we cannot have all wonderful novel teachers.
No, we can't.
And we must, as districts, understand that and try to improve in any way we can. I think the quality of teachers. Enid, what kind of student were you? Were you a good little girl?
I was.
You were?
I was a good girl. I was pretty much.
What happened? No, I was too.
I was involved.
Uh-huh.
All right. I was involved. In high school, I was a debater.
Oh.
I was in drama. Yeah, it's very surprising that I was a debater, right?
Wow.
I mean, it kept me very involved.
You were a good student?
Yeah,
A student, no doubt.
Academically fine. Did well in school, but again, loved it. Was in activities, was in clubs, was very engaged. I think I grew up in an idyllic time. We were safe. We could ride bikes.
Yes.
We could. I went to Gables, but I walked home the 4 blocks. It was okay. It was very safe. I didn't need friends to walk with me, but often there were.
Uh-huh.
Okay. We rarely locked doors at night.
Exactly.
But as a city gets bigger, a city changes, and we all learn to, move with those changes. One of the things that I found early on is that working in the urban core, many of those children, most of those children did not have 2 parents. And the lack of 2 parents
absolutely
made me really look deeper into it. And I finally came to the conclusion that every child needs at least one effective adult in their life.
Yes.
It might not be their mother.
Yes.
But it could be a grandmother. It could be an aunt.
Yes.
Absent that, the void that the schools try to fill are enormous. And that is why counseling and all of the support services we do, and in recent years, because of the wisdom of the school board, with members like you, understanding the value of wraparound services, that a child that's hungry isn't going to learn their lessons.
Absolutely.
Okay? That a child that got a beating that morning may be acting out in that classroom.
And what you touched on, which is one of my particular beliefs too, is that it's 2 parents, and even research has shown us the importance of a father. I have a son who has 3 kids, and I can see, for example, I've read the research that even how they hold a child is different than how a woman holds them, and there is the need for that nurturing to come from a male and from a female for kids. And even so, they're not going to necessarily grow up perfect. However, that is such a void in so many of our kids, in particular our boys. So that would be something that if you had a magic wand, what would you do to improve education, which would then improve everything? And since you are a mayor, and also, and you're not just a mayor, you are the mayor of the United States, because you affect things all the way up to the federal level. People don't understand that, and this is excellence in education. But I could do another program just on all of your accomplishments outside of education. But if you had a magic bullet or a magic wand, Enid, which is the only thing you're missing because you're perfect, except you don't have that, what would you do?
Improve family structure. You know, children are born. And now, David Lawrence, a good friend of yours and mine, a visionary, realized how important it was to get children before they were old enough to enter the public school system. And I've talked to Dave and I've talked to you. 4 is not the magic age. I don't even think 3 is the magic age. You know, when children are lucky enough to be born into a family with grandparents and aunts and tias and abuelas and whatever it is, you can't measure how that's going to impact their life. Absolutely. And even then, you're right, sometimes there are problems. But when children have none of that, so my magic wand would be to give everyone from birth an effective, supportive family-like structure. If it can't be a family, then at least a family-like structure. Sometimes we just wait too long. We don't realize the damage at 1, 2, and 3.
And in my world, I wish that more people in leadership positions would say something like that. Would say, we have to provide families for every child. The community must insist. Everyone has to be responsible. You have a child, you're responsible for that child. That is something that is not just a wish. This is a mandate. I mean, we can't mandate, but what I mean is that the community sees that as an imperative. That would be something I would certainly wish for.
We are our brother's keeper. Mm-hmm. Make no mistake about it. We are our brother's keeper, and we will all come through this together. And you know, you and I are the eternal optimists, and we always think it's going to get better. I think we're headed in the right direction. I think that we've got nonprofits more than we've ever had before, involving themselves with children at an earlier age and involving themselves with family, recognizing that the child is not the only entity in the family, that if that mother has no skills and no means to provide for the child, training and education for that parent is as important as what we do for the child.
I've heard, because obviously if you didn't have good parents, then you can't be, and so it becomes a generational thing. And I've heard, not lately, but I heard a while back, about whenever we talk about children, we talk about not just the current child, but 2 generations. We try to solve it for at least 2 generations. And I haven't heard much about that, but that seems to me to be something that would be very positive and necessary. Enid, I really mean, we are so fortunate, and anyone watching is so fortunate. We have, oh my goodness, look, we have Rachel Salzman Friedland says, the city of Aventura is lucky to have Mayor Enid Weisman. I agree 100%. And we have other comments like that. And you seem such a positive person. You always seem to find solutions. She is the best negotiator in the world. If she can't negotiate something, I mean, I would send her to the Middle East and she would get it done. but you must, and you're so positive, and you're always so bright and cheerful, and optimistic. So you must have faced challenges in your life. What are some of the biggest challenges in your life that you would like to share that people may not know about?
Well, I think I've, we all have, no one goes through this lifetime unscathed. Okay. There always are challenges. I think I've been particularly fortunate. I've been blessed with good health. Okay. And as you get older, you realize it's not the possessions you have, it's the people in your lives that care about you.
Absolutely.
It's the health that you have and the
Absolutely.
connections that you make. I can tell you, as you well know, there are times that I was very frustrated with the bureaucracy, the time it takes to make change, the challenges, and the value of consensus building is a very lengthy process. But skipping that process, you don't get buy-in. So often I would leave labor negotiation sessions, feeling
that's the toughest. Only you could do what you've done.
But it's understanding. I often felt I was negotiating for both sides of the table. They were our employees also. Okay. And they had families.
And what she's talking about is she was our chief negotiator for
5 unions.
And that is not an easy job. And only Enid Weisman can do what Enid Weisman does, which is create magic.
And listen, I think the real key is listening and hearing the feelings behind the words. Sometimes we use words as a shield. And you just have to understand that inside, we're all afraid. We all don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. We want a better world. We don't know the path that's going to take us there. So I joined hands with you many years ago, knowing how alike we were. And that's what you do. You join hands with people that are on your same crusade to make the world better. One child, one person, one adult at a time. And I've been lucky that I was able to find a passion. And that Dade County Public Schools and a school board that is passionate about children during my term that were on the same page I was on, that really deeply cared. I can't think of a time I really had a confrontation with any school board member. That doesn't mean we didn't have differences. We had differences, but at the end of the day, they wanted the same thing that I wanted. They wanted it to be better for children.
I hope
and
that
that's important.
People who are viewing you, have never seen you before, understand what a humanist you are and how talented you are and how difficult it is to find people with your skills. Because, as I say, to battle 5 unions and come out, and everybody loves her. Everyone says, isn't she great? Isn't she? And where I have seen other negotiators come out and it's like heads locking, and you're able to do that with what appears to be such ease. It's really a talent, and it talks about your kindness and your empathy. I think
I thank you. But if I could go back to one point you asked me about finding teacher talent.
Yes,
which I think is so critical for every single school system in the country. We really have to look at the profession of education and what we have done. Whether the we not meaning Dr. Perez or Enid Weisman, the we is society, the we is the state, the we is the federal government. I'm a big believer in accountability, and you know that. But accountability should drive instruction. It shouldn't drive caring professionals out of this occupation. We've got to make it attractive so that kids in college want to go into education. Probably the biggest problem I have, and my city has 2 schools. The biggest problem that we have is finding the right teacher talent, especially in the area of technology, in the area of science and math, STEM, And one of my magic wand solutions would be, just like private business, you pay up for talent.
Exactly.
Okay. And they're economic drivers.
So what is keeping us from doing that?
Well, part of it is our contracts with the union, that all teachers are deemed to be the same, so they get paid on a salary schedule. Where if you were in private industry and you were a super duper phenomenal web designer, you're going to make more than somebody that's just getting out of school.
Do you think we'd ever be able to change that?
Oh, I think, yeah.
Do you think the unions will come up around that?
I always said this, and I said it in bargaining as well. Florida is union light. Okay, Florida is the only state, and I don't know if everyone knows that, we are a right to work state, and our Constitution gives labor the right to organize. It's the only state that has both. But we can't go on sick outs. We can't, there are many things the union can't do. But we are also at the bottom of South Florida. This is our labor pool. We don't live in the middle of the United States or in New England where we can draw from many different states. This is it. We have to invest money in our teachers. We have to invest money as kids get into 11th and 12th grade, enticing them into the education professions. We have to raise the salaries. There shouldn't be a battle about $47,000.
Yes.
Okay. A teacher, the president of the United States is where he is because he had teachers in part. Teachers really changed the world, and we've marginalized them. So if you gave me 2 magic wands, I would take that role and I would elevate it as it is elevated in Finland, in Singapore, in the Middle East.
And I was just going to ask you about, because I know you have visited, and you know me, I always go back to the most successful school districts and what they do. And I wish we could do so many of those things. But I haven't visited some of these school districts. Tell us what you think is the difference there.
Parents absolutely respect and honor the profession. Mm-hmm. Whether they make a few dollars more or a few dollars less. It's very hard with costs of living, even to figure this out state by state in our country. But the word that I hear over and over again is a profession that is respected, a profession that is honored. I may go into my doctor and he may tell me, your blood pressure is high. You have to do these things, certain exercises. I will not argue with him and say, I don't. I will not. He's the doctor. You listen. But yet teachers are faced with parents who say, no, it's right. No, you're hurting my child's feelings. We just have to realize that they are professionals, that they're highly trained, and we need to respect them.
And now I'm getting a signal that it's almost over. And I have so many questions. I mean, we are so blessed to have this brilliant woman here with us. Final words for a program called Excellence in Education. Take us away.
Final words are, you will find no more excellence in education than you do in Miami-Dade County public schools. They have it all. They have a phenomenal superintendent and a school board that are visionaries, that support children, that support teachers in the most trying of times. And make no mistake about it, we are in the most trying of times and we need each other.
Thank you so much, Enid. You are a hero. You are so admired, and you deserve all of the praise and all of the awards that you receive. Thank you for being such a superwoman in our community. Thank you, Mayor Enid Weisman.
And I am so honored to have spent this time with you. As you know, you are one of my all-time heroes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.